And to start the webinar, I want to welcome the folks who are attending today, and to thank our presenters, Lizzy Cooper and Liz Hill. Just to give you a little background, support for this webinar comes from the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. And it's part of it's an outgrowth of a program that was begun last year looking at on-farm composting and reducing food loss through gleaning. Seems like another natural resource to provide to our local farms to consider ways to use all of their production as well as on-farm waste. Just to give you a little background, Capital RC&D is a regional nonprofit located in seven counties in south central Pennsylvania. We serve Adams, Cumberland, Dauphin, Franklin, Lebanon, Lancaster, and York counties. And this webinar will be rebroadcast in the winter, and it's intended for producer audience, but as well as those folks interested in food rescue and food security. During the rebroadcast, Lizzy Cooper and Liz Hill will also be available for live response to any additional questions that come up. And right now, I'll turn this webinar over to Lizzy and Liz. Both of them are from the Gleaning Project, and they'll provide a lot of additional information about their organization as well as the Gleaning Project activities. So thank you, ladies, and I'll let you go from here.
All right, thank you, Susan, so much for hosting us on this webinar. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to tune in this afternoon. My name is Lizzy Cooper. I'm the Gleaning Coordinator in Adams County. I'm here with my colleague, Liz Hills, the Gleaning Coordinator in Franklin County. For those less familiar, Adams and Franklin County are located in south central Pennsylvania and are some of the top producers for vegetables and fruits in our state. Today, we will be discussing our program, the Gleaning Project, how gleaning works, how it can specifically benefit growers, and some of the legality issues. We will have time for questions after our presentation, but please feel free to type them in as they come up throughout the presentation.
All right, so the Gleaning Project is a program within South Central Community Action Programs. We're a nonprofit that focuses on breaking the cycle of poverty here in our area. We began when two community members saw the need in our community. They noticed a lot of people were hungry and didn't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and then also noticed that there was a lot of food that wasn't leaving the farm. So they were kind of able to connect the dots for us and started the Gleaning Project just in their free time. After a couple years, the program grew quite a bit. And so South Central Community Action Programs took it over in 2013 in Adams County. And then in 2015, we started another branch in Franklin County. We work with right around 90 growers in both of our counties. And most of these are farms, but a couple different types. We work with conventional growers. We work with small scale CSA farms as well, a couple college farms and community gardens in there too. And then more than 100 backyard gardeners, and we also glean their excess produce. We work with these growers, gardeners and farmers all year round, but the bulk of our food donations do occur during the months of June through November. And in 2018, we were able to glean right around 250,000 pounds of produce and are on track to do about the same this year. So just walking you through our mission, again, this is just for the Gleaning Project. We work to make good use of agricultural excess. We know that the food system is designed to create food waste and food loss on kind of all levels of production and distribution. So we work with our growers to try to reduce the amount of food loss that happens on their farms and gardens by collecting and then redistributing the produce. We also work to reduce food insecurity and improve community health. Our area, as we mentioned earlier, has tons of farms, a lot of orchards on it, but we still notice that a lot of people don't always have access to the fresh fruits and vegetables. So once we collect the produce, we redistribute it at no cost to areas all around Adams and Franklin County. We try to get a pretty good spread so that people who have maybe some mobility issues are able to access our produce as well. And then lastly, we work to connect our community. We pride ourselves in being a community solution to food insecurity. So we would not be able to do the work that we do without the support of our growers, our community partners, and our volunteers to make our mission as efficient and as impactful as possible. And lastly, our vision. The Gleaning Project strives for a more equitable and sustainable food system. We envision a South Central Pennsylvania where farmers are supported, the local food economy is thriving, and everyone can access enough food to lead an active and healthy lifestyle.
So gleaning as a practice, it has been around since biblical times. Sometimes people think we made up this term or practice, but it simply means the process of collecting the excess after the harvest. The image you see here is a famous painting done in the 1800s that depicts 3 women harvesting wheat after the harvest. Right now, it is estimated that up to 30% of produce does not leave the farm. This can be for a variety of reasons, including misshapen or quote-unquote ugly produce, not enough time, or especially now labor to harvest the crop, or it's just not financially viable to spend the time going back through that field. And we will dig a little deeper into these reasons and specific examples from our growers a little bit later. Once we collect the produce, we bring it back to our 2 central locations and store them in a walk-in cooler. We then distribute the produce through our on-site produce stand, as well as our network of over 90 community partners, including food pantries, churches, assisted living facilities, after-school programs, and more. And gleaning programs can be run, there's a lot of different models throughout the country. Sometimes they're part of a church, sometimes they're part of a food bank or a standalone nonprofit. It really just depends on the community.
So there are a lot of reasons why food might not be profitable for farms to be selling. We try to work with each farm individually to see what best fits their needs as a business and how we can be the greatest asset to them. As Lizzy was mentioning, some crops are not sellable because they've been partially damaged or blemished by adverse weather or pests. Other time, a market has become too much saturated with a particular crop. So if one farm is having a really good peach season, there's a good chance a lot of farms in the area are having a good peach season. And so therefore the value might be going down. And it isn't as financially feasible to be paying employees to continue harvesting that particular crop. Other farms will donate their market seconds. We work with several farmers markets in the area to do aftermarket pickups as a way to make it easy on our growers to donate anything that didn't sell during the farmer's market. Some fruits or vegetables can sometimes grow to be a little bit too big or too small, or just be oddly shapen, or again, quote unquote, ugly. We're always happy to take these off of your hands. We know people who will be more than appreciative to have a slightly misshapen apple or zucchini. And lastly, we have people who do the grow a row option. This is especially popular with our backyard gardeners, with the idea that they just plant a little bit extra at the start of the growing season with the intent of donating that produce back to us here at the Gleaning Project. We like to say that no donation is too small or too unique. We've had everything from just, one single tomato donated to us to up to 4,000 pounds of watermelon donated in the same glean. Any little bit helps, and we always appreciate the call or text. Feedback we often get from farms is they don't know when to call us, so what would be like enough quantity wise for us to come out and do the glean. And so we always just recommend reach out and we can figure out a way to make that possible. This might vary for some gleaning programs, so it's best to check in with your local program that you're working with. Often storage can be a really big issue, which we'll get into a little bit more later on in the presentation. But it's always a little bit frustrating for us when a farmer might have 3,000 pounds worth of winter squash, but we can only take a fraction of that because we just simply don't have the storage capacity back at our main location. And lastly, we do try to take produce that has at least 4 days of shelf life. We can typically receive the produce and then get it to people who need it very, very quickly, but we just want to make sure that it'll last long enough for everyone to enjoy it once they take it home.
So the real why behind what we're doing this work, despite our area being one of the most agriculturally abundant in the state, around 12% of our population identifies as food insecure. So what does that really mean? We use it to mean individuals who do not have access to enough food to lead healthy, active lifestyles. So even if they can afford to purchase bread or cereal, things that fill you up quickly, they don't keep you full, and they're missing many key vitamins and nutrients to sustain, especially children, but really anyone. Right around 1 in 7 people across Pennsylvania are struggling with lack of access to enough food, and that number goes up for children. So about 1 in 5 or 20% of children, as well as seniors, many of whom in our communities who are on fixed incomes without a lot of wiggle room for fruits and vegetables in their budgets. The vast majority of folks who have access to gleaned produce are employed, actively working, and we also serve the folks in that kind of food gap. So they make too much money to receive traditional food assistance, maybe going to a food pantry or receiving SNAP, formerly known as food stamps. But they don't make enough to be able to budget for apples or other kinds of fruits and vegetables to supplement their diet for their family. And our project provides access to produce for around 19,000 individuals who fall into that category of experiencing food insecurity. And as we mentioned before, we primarily connect with these individuals through our community partners, like pictured in this photo, our wonderful senior centers in the area who already have that relationship with the folks who are visiting there, and we're able to provide them with produce.
We communicate with all of our growers in a variety of ways. Again, this is just something that we try to work with each grower individually to figure out the best form of communication. So some of them we email, some we call, some we text, some we do a variation of all 3 of those. It's just, again, the matter of finding the right fit for each grower. We try to have at least 2 to 3 days notice as to when a field will be ready. So sometimes growers will contact us kind of right as they're finishing up the field, but before they mow it down. Others, especially the orchards, will have a pretty good idea of what will be available in coming weeks, and they can reach out even with a little bit more notice. But those 2 to 3 days at least are really just so we can get volunteers together. We can be contacting our network of people who like to come out and help us do the harvesting. Having clear instructions on when or where and what to harvest is really key for operation and relationship with the farms to be successful. Some farmers like to meet us out in the field right when we get there with our volunteers, and they can show us exactly where we'll be picking. Others will sometimes schedule a time to just go out, just us as the coordinator, and meet with the farmer, and he can show us, and then we'll bring the volunteers back there either later that evening or sometime later in the week. This is especially helpful if the field is really maybe difficult to find on the property, or if the farm is still harvesting part of the field. So if there's only 2 or 3 rows that we should be in and the rest is still being harvested, it really helps to have those instructions so we can just make sure we're only harvesting what you guys would like us to, and we're always on the same page. We bring along any harvesting materials that we need for our volunteers, and so that might include gloves or knives, buckets and crates for us to be putting the produce into. And then we have a couple of different vehicles, including box trucks and trailers, that we'll bring out as well, so that we're able to haul out a pretty large quantity of produce. At the end of each glean, we always try to remind our volunteers to support the growers that support us. We like to share the location of their farm stands, or maybe stores that they sell at, or farmers markets where you can find them. A lot of our volunteers who come out are really passionate about this work, and they get really excited about the idea of purchasing produce from a farm that they've actually been on, or a farm that they know supports our mission. So just always having that information, we really try to encourage that partnership to move on.
Are there any questions up to this point?
Currently, there are just one question, and that was about the storage. So you bring all of your own equipment, like boxes and things like that?
Yes, we have collapsible, like fold-up lugs, or there's so many different names out there that growers use for them. But we have those that we use, as well as we also occasionally use apple boxes or banana boxes, but we do provide all of that so that the grower never has to, often they pay for their equipment and materials, and so we don't want to take any of that away from them. The only exception would be occasionally when we get peaches or things of that nature donated in the crates. When we have a really quick turnaround, the growers occasionally feel comfortable letting us use those crates. But again, it really depends on their preference. Great question.
Yeah, thank you. And also, I was wondering if you have cold storage available.
Yes, we do have cold storage in each of our locations in SCAP, but we'll get into this even further, but it definitely is a challenge even for a lot of our, or maybe a positive, that for a lot of our community partners, they don't have the cold storage. So that's why the fact that we're able to deliver in smaller quantities more frequently is really beneficial for them, because a lot of them don't even have a refrigerator, or if they do, they don't have room. But we have large walk-in coolers that can, it varies in each county what the specific capacity and setup is. But yeah, we are very fortunate to have our designated spaces that is specifically for gleaned produce in our locations where we work.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So now some of the boring but important stuff about liability and taxes. So you might be familiar with the Bill Emerson Act that was passed in 1996 to encourage the donation of food to nonprofits. So this protects the growers from liability when donating the produce. So this is a really positive thing that we're able to share with growers, because often that is one of their concerns when we're first invited to their fields. We always are very careful to sort through the produce and train our volunteers in what to look for. And we always ask that they wouldn't pick anything that they wouldn't eat themselves or feed to a child. But this law does protect anyone from the donations. As well, we also have liability insurance as an organization and waivers to cover individuals volunteering in the fields. We follow GAP guidelines and any specific farmer instructions for food safety. And then on the tax side of things, we always complete tax in-kind forms for all produce donations from commercial farms as well as backyard gardeners, because we have some folks who really, the backyard gardeners who really do give us a large amount and benefit from those tax in-kinds. But yes, we provide them for each donation that is made. And some growers choose to use them and others do not. And we just encourage them to speak with their tax preparer for those specific questions about their donations.
A few of the challenges we have that just come along with starting and sustaining a gleaning organization can include our funding sources, which impact our infrastructures, such as cooler space, vehicles, and paid staff. Our gleaning program is a bit unique in the sense that we partner with one of our healthcare organizations, and they're able to provide some funding for us with the knowledge that we are providing fresh fruits and vegetables to our community and therefore keeping the community healthier, and in turn helping with the healthcare system in that sense. So that's just one of the social determinants of health factors we've been working on with them, but it does help us with funding as well. Cooler space, as we were mentioning just a little bit ago, is really important for us to be storing our fruits and vegetables. And both Lizzy and I have cooler space at our locations, and we're really grateful for that. It can be a really limiting factor because we can only be taking however much produce will fit into our cooler. And so sometimes during peak season, it can be frustrating if our cooler is already full, but we have farms who want to continue donating to us. There's almost always a need for a larger cooler space. So, and I know a lot of other like community partners, as Lizzy was mentioning, don't have that opportunity to have cooler space. So it's nice that we have it and we can keep the produce cool until it's ready to go to the community partner and be handed out to the people that they serve. We have a couple of different vehicles that we work with. We both have a box truck. We have a pickup truck between the two of us, and then also a van with the trailer. And between all of those vehicles, it's really helpful for us to be able to transport large quantities of food. The box trucks are nice because we can put pallets of food in there and get them out with a forklift. We also have a trailer that can act as a cooler as well. It just has an AC unit in it that we can plug in. And so that's been really helpful for us too when our regular walk-in cooler space is full. A lot of gleaning organizations, including ours, rely very, very heavily on our volunteers, but we always do advocate for paid staff. Both Lizzy and I are full-time year-round employees with the Gleaning Project, and the work that we do, it would just be a lot for a single volunteer or a group of volunteers just to rely on them to do it. We're always improving and maintaining our relationships with different growers and different community partners and distribution points throughout our counties. And so that's just something that we really try to advocate for to the best that we can. And finally, weather and variability from season to season can really affect what's happening. In addition to only knowing maybe 2 to 3 days in advance as to when a glean will be, we also have to factor weather into that as well. So sometimes during the summer, we'll have pop-up thunderstorms that might not allow us to go out. We like to think of ourselves as a pretty hardy crew. And so if it's just raining, we'll typically still try to go out. But if it's thunderstorming or lightning, that's generally when we'll call it or send our volunteers home. And that variability can go, day to day, week to week. It can also go season to season. Last year, as many people in this area will remember it was very, very rainy, which really affected a lot of our farms. A lot of our farms really struggled, and because they were struggling to just make enough to make their ends meet, it meant we were not having as much donations to the Gleaning Project as well. But then this year has been really sunny and really nice, and so we've been kind of back on track to where we usually are.
So getting a little bit more into our growers, I love this map because it just kind of shows visually the spread of where the farms are located in South Central or in Adams and Franklin counties that we work with. We are always, I just got a call this morning from a new grower who had heard about us and had some green beans for us to glean. So we are kind of always expanding the growers we work with, as well as, you know, some growers are older and retiring and things like that. But we are always happy to reach out to new growers, as well as have folks hear about us through word of mouth or things like that. And we do really utilize our growers as kind of a reference for other farmers who might be kind of hesitant or unsure about working with us for the first time. Many of our growers, as you can see here, are passionate about working with us and are happy to speak about how it has been beneficial for them and their farm to donate their excess produce.
Yeah, and I would just like to add on that the warm handoff that we can receive from other growers to maybe new growers working with us is really, really important. Right now, we're at a point where it really just helps to have that reference from other growers and just to hear from other people how we have been benefiting them. So if that ever helps, or you have the opportunity to do that for your own gleaning organizations and feel comfortable, I would just really recommend it because it's very helpful from our point of view. So these are just a few other gleaning networks that we found in Pennsylvania. So some of them might be kind of within driving range of where you're located. The first one, Project Share, up in Carlisle, that's pretty close to us. And so we have a nice relationship with them. Some of the other ones on here we're less familiar with, but we're sure that they're also doing great work. And so again, if you're just kind of within that relative area and you're looking to start partnering with a gleaning organization, these might be a good ones to reach out to.
And there are a number of resources available for folks who are more on the side of wanting to start getting into this gleaning work. I know the USDA, as well as many other national organizations who focus on food recovery, have put out some really nice handbooks about gleaning. So to summarize, gleaning is really based in community, and the landscape and the different partners in each community really impacts how gleaning will work in that community. So as much as I wish, you know, there was kind of a one model that would work perfectly in each community to help spread the practice of gleaning, it really does rely on getting to know who the local players are in this, in your very own community. So fruits and vegetables are expensive. Recently, our survey of folks who access gleaned produce, we asked what the barriers to eating more fruits and vegetables were, and 88% of folks said it was simply the cost. I think 0% said that it was not knowing how to prepare them. So that kind of flips some misconceptions that folks sometimes have, that folks who are dealing with food insecurity don't want fruits and vegetables, because we have seen time and time again that the gleaned produce goes to individuals who want to eat it. They're excited about, you know, everything from zucchini to even curly kale, if you can believe it. And but yeah, they want to eat that produce but cannot afford it. Donating produce is simple with in the Gleaning Project, we try to make it as simple and painless as possible for the grower, and we encourage anyone else who's looking to do gleaning to do that as well. And infrastructure and capacity are really crucial elements in order for a gleaning project to be sustainable and to succeed in bringing in a variety of community partners, a variety of volunteers, and growers.
All right, are there any questions?
Just to remind folks that you can ask questions by using the chat option on the bottom of your screen, and I'll be able to read those questions to Lizzy and Liz. Also, I have a question for you both. How best would it be to contact both of you if you're a producer or a home gardener and would like to donate?
Yes, I was just realizing that we failed to include our contact information on there, but fortunately our email is really easy. It's just thegleaningproject@gmail.com, as well as our phone numbers are available for both for Adams and Franklin counties on our website, which is thegleaningproject.org. So hopefully we are pretty easily found on the internet. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Let's wait a minute more in case there are open questions. And meanwhile, thank you very much for all this really important information. It sounds like you guys have done a great job of getting homeless produce to people who appreciate and need it. And I'm sure it's appreciated by the producers as well.
Yes, one comment we often get is, you know, it's a win-win, and we love it too, because the growers are happy when we show up and take the produce, and then folks at the produce stand are happy when we deliver it. And so we're like, wow, this is, you know, kind of the best feeling ever. Happy customers on both ends. So yeah, we enjoy doing the work and are happy to be able to do it.
That's wonderful. Well, I do not have any additional open questions right now. Again, we'll be presenting this webinar along with a live Q&A in January, either January or February. That'll be advertised extensively beforehand through the Pennsylvania Vegetable Growers Association, as well as other lists that we have. And I thank you for your time today, and thank you, Lizzy and Liz. And I'll end the recording.
Thank you so much.
Very good.